souls. Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are too intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Purport. Whoa. It's a really long purport. So, maybe I can read the first two paragraphs, get into it, and then if we have time, we could go, or the next speaker could finish the rest of the purport. So, purport: the renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to society and not depending on the earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from the householders by the bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for tangible benefit of the donor. In Sanatana Dharma institutions, alms giving to the mendicant is a part of the householder's duty, and it is advised in the scriptures that the householder should treat the mendicants as their family children and should provide them with food and clothing. Without being asked. Pseudo-mendicants, therefore, should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of a person in the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give him realized direction towards self-realization. Amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life, Srila Sanatana, Srila Rupa, and the other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses among themselves at Sevakunj Vrindavan, the spot where Sri Radha Damodar was established by Srila Jiva Goswami, and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not for living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food. For such mendicants, asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Shukadeva Goswami gave this warning especially for those mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. So I'll start chanting my Mangala chant. Can you ask S.B-2.2.5 Prabhu if it's okay if I do it like this, because the purport is too long? Okay, he's in this room. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaf Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vikasa Swamanati Namine Nija Guru Harivanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitrigeha Dyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Madjayan Swamsa Vishwa Bhuvi Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Paschati Deshtarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmir Yasya Chivakshisi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvit Tamrisimhamaham Bhaje Mukam Kati Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripat Maham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasyaite Katita Hyartha Prakashante Mahatmanaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. That is okay? Matsya? He said it's okay? Okay, awesome. So, This is a really amazing purport. And what's more amazing is that it came right in the beginning of the marathon. And this is how you know, Krishna is so amazing. Krishna plans so many things in advance. Sometimes we even see when we're out on book distribution, some people, they're really like, I really don't have any cash. And then they somehow the other happen to find, and some of them are sincere, they happen to actually find like a $20 bill. Oh wow, I didn't know it was there. I guess this is for you. And they just give it to you like that. And and they buy Srila Prabhupada's books. So when things like this happen, we can understand that Krishna has already thought of all these things. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text number 26, which we've been reciting every day now, that whole chapter 7. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani chabhutani mam tu vedana kashana. That Krishna says he knows Vedaham samatitani vartamana. He knows past, present, and future. Krishna knows all these things. So because Krishna knows the future, Krishna makes arrangement. Krishna makes arrangements for these things. Oh wow, in order for this to happen, I'm going to make this person put the $20 bill in their pocket and forget that it was there. And then just that day they happen to wear those pair of pants, and they happen to run into you, and they have no money. But then they end up finding a $20 bill and giving it to you. So similarly, we see over here also, Krishna has arranged, this is amazing purport, speaking about book distribution. Sometimes it may seem like those who are too fanatical about book distribution, y'all may know some people like that, may always try to squeeze book distribution out of a purport, I mean, the truth is every purport speaks about book distribution, but we can get into that later. But here, it's so obvious, what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about. So, the most important thing is that one should understand is that the renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. That the duty of a renunciate is to actually go and enlighten the common mass of people. That's the most important duty of the renunciate, that this is what they are supposed to do. A person in the renounced order of life is actually worshipped by all the members of the Varnashram society. Be they a Brahmana, be they a Kshatriya, be they a Vaishya, be they a Shudra, or even if they were a Brahmachari, a Grihastha, or a Vanaprastha, everyone respects a sannyasi in the Varnashram system, in the Daiva Varnashram system. Everyone respects a sannyasi because they see that the sannyasi has realized that sense gratification is simply tuchya. There is no use for sense gratification. What pleasure is there in sense gratification? Absolutely nothing. The happiness derived from sense gratification is so useless that Prahlad Maharaj compares it to scratching of an itch. That if something, if you have an itch on your body and you scratch it, initially you may feel good. But if you keep scratching it, then what happens? Then there's going to be blood. So, the so-called sex life enjoyed by the householders is actually tuchya. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukham hi tucham. Right? What's the exact verse number to that? Let's see. Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukham hi tucham. Yanmai tunadi. Right? Okay, 7.9.45. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukham hi tucham kandu yanena karayor eva dukha dukkam tripyanti neha kripana bahudukha bhaja kandu tivan manasijam vishaheta dhiraha. That, you got it? Okay. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedis, so-called grihastas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The kripanas, the fools, who are just the opposite of brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyments. Therefore, those who are dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of the fools and the rascals. Materialists think that the sexual indulgence is the greatest happiness in the material world, and therefore they make elaborate plans to satisfy their senses, especially the genitals. This is generally found everywhere, and especially found in the Western world. But there are regular arrangements to satisfy sex life in different ways. Actually, however, this has not made anyone happy. Even the hippies who have given up all materialistic comforts of their fathers and grandfathers cannot give up the sensual happiness of sex life. Such persons are described as kripanas, misers. The human form of life is the greatest asset, for in this life one can fulfill the goal of existence. Unfortunately, however, because of lack of education and culture, people are victimized with the false happiness of sex life. Prahlad Maharaj therefore advises one not to be misled by the civilization of sense gratification, especially not by sex life. Rather, one should be sober, avoid sense gratification, and be Krishna conscious. The lusty person, who is compared to a foolish miser, never gets happiness by sense gratification. The influence of material nature is very difficult to surpass. If one voluntarily submits to the lotus feet of Krishna, then he can be saved very easily. So we have to understand that the renounced order of life is respected for this reason, that they are able to renounce this desire for sex or this madness of sex life. And because they're able to renounce this madness of sex life, they are free from the turbulence, or they're free from the disturbances caused by the sufferings which naturally come about with sex life. This does not mean that we want to make a society of renunciates only. How can there be a society of renunciates only? A society primarily consists of householders. So we are not saying that all the householders are in Maya. We are not saying this. We are not saying that anyone who is not wearing saffron, or anyone who is not taking to a brahmachari life or something like that, is simply a fool and rascal and a sense gratifier, number one. We are not saying this. What the Shastra is speaking about is griha medis. And what is recommended by the previous acharyas for those who are getting married is actually grihastha ashram. One should understand the difference between the grihamedi ashram and the grihamedi life and the grihastha ashram. One should learn to understand this. And in this regard, you can pull up ye yatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manusya partha sarvashaha. This is, I think, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 40. So people don't think that we are unnecessarily bashing householders. We can understand this point very... Oh, sorry, it's not 40... Oh, 411, you're right, 411 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You will see over here, in this purport, as all surrender unto me, reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. And... can you please ask the kitchen devotees to not have a big party in there? They're causing a huge noise. Such impersonalists. I wanted to go to a certain section of this purport where we can actually understand what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about here and what the Shastra speaks about in regards to the Grihasthas. So, okay, in the material world, reciprocation feelings, Supreme Master. Okay, maybe this is not the purport I'm looking for, but in one of the purports of Srila Prabhupada that I was reading, Prabhupada in that purport actually speaks about how, the Grihasthas in the Krishna consciousness movement are actually very, very worshipable. And they actually are able to transcend this bodily attraction that's present between the opposite sexes, and they're actually able to live together and practice Krishna consciousness properly. And because they're able to do so, they're able to set proper examples for people to actually follow. And by doing so, one can actually transcend this human form of life, transcend this material existence altogether. Sri Narottam Das Thakur says, Grihe Tako, Vani Tako, Sada Hari Bole Tako. That whoever, even if there's a Grihastha or a Vanaprastha or a Brahmachari or Sannyasi, whoever is a pure worshipper of Lord Chaitanya, he worships them. Whoever chants Lord Chaitanya's name properly, he worships them. So when we are speaking about this, the attachment of sex life and all these things, even Grihasthas need to hear it. Prabhupada said that all men must remain brahmachari and all women must get married. So the temple president asked Prabhupada, how is this possible? Prabhupada said, that is your management. What does that mean? That those who decide to remain celibates their whole life and those who decide to move into the Grihastha ashram should all understand how risky sex life is. No matter who you are, no matter what ashram we belong to, we must all understand how risky this thing is. Why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.8 says, Pumsasya mutani bhavametam taro raho hridaya granthi mahuhu ato griha ksheta sutapta vittaya janasya mohoya maham mameti. Tristan, you can stand up. Please stand up so you can pay more attention in class. So we read the translation to this one here. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. You should understand this point, that no matter grihastha, no matter if you're a grihastha, no matter you're a brahmachari, no matter who you are, this is what's said in Shastra. What else is said in Shastra? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in this chapter that we are learning in the morning, 7th chapter, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamasmi bharatarshava. That sex life not contrary to religious principles is Krishna himself. So, if one were to remain in the brahmachari ashram, if one were to remain in the grihastha ashram, one will understand this point, that one can, that sex life not contrary to the principles of religion. So what is that? What is that? That we must understand. Not that we must think that, oh my God, like every time such verses come, never again, oh, this is so crazy, what is this, it's a one-sided thing. No, everyone should understand this point. It's nothing over the top, so hard to understand. It's very easy to understand. In the same chapter, now you can go to the next verse. Mahotsaha dvaram ahur vimukte. Can you pull that up? I think it should be in the 5th chapter. Mahotsaha dvaram ahur vimukte yoshitam sangi sangam. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5. Let me see. What's verse number 9? 552, that's right. Mahotsavam dvaram ahur vimukte stamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachitta prashanta vimanyava suhrida sadhavo ye. That one can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonals and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path of hell is wide open. I'm not saying this. The Bhagavatam is saying this. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. That is what this verse is speaking about. These are the renunciates that one should actually take instruction from. These are the renunciates that one should actually give their hard-earned wealth to. Not the pseudo-renunciates, who just and then they wear saffron just because it's convenient. It's a convenient thing, right? It's people, they get all the charity, they get this and that and this and that. But if you look at them, they're living worse than so many householders. They're living worse than so many grihamedis. So many things. They're living more luxuriously. They barely work. That Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would always warn that the society of devotees or the mata or the temple should not become a joint mess. So basically in India you'll find these things called joint mess. Basically it's a place where people can live and they all come together and they eat. It's called a joint mess. So we see some places in some ashrams, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would speak about this, that he's seen in some places that, they wake up in the morning, they may do like a little puja or something like that. Then they go out in the morning to beg alms, they go and they collect their grain. Yeltsin, can you stand up, please? They go out, they go out, they collect alms, they get their vegetables, they get their grains, fruits, etc. Then they come back, they cut it up, they cook, and then they eat, and then they sleep, and then they again wake up in the evening, collect a little more alms, not in the evening, they wake up a little bit later again in the afternoon or whatever, after lunch or whatever, collect a little more alms, cook, eat, and maybe they do a little bit bhajan and they go to sleep, and then they do the same thing over and over and over again. Is that what renounced order of life is meant for? Is that what vairagya actually means? Is that what real renunciation means? No. Real renunciation means one must actually understand Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga, Shikshamrita Eka Purusha Purana, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari, Kripambuderya Samaham Prapadye. That one should understand that real renunciation means that one is engaging everything in the service of the Lord. And that should be done in the proper devotional service. And this is the teaching taught to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Prabhupada is speaking about so much in this purport that, a renunciate should not be living like a parasite. What's actually amazing, if you look at the Sanskrit in the purport that we read, there's this word known as bhajanti, and kasmat bhajanti. And if you look at the translation, it says flatterers. And, again, Krishna is so amazing, he's arranged for this purport. There's a really bogus place, and they do, all kinds of nonsense activities, and they come up with all kinds of nonsensical philosophies and all these things, and the name of their fundraiser was Bhajanti. What does that mean? Flatterers. Go ahead, see the Sanskrit. You see? It's called Bhajanti. It can mean other things also, but Bhajanti, flatterers. That what you see, like, we can have Srila Prabhupada in our life. You see, that this thing, one must not think that, this renunciation, these bogus renunciates, all these things, that was during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. Certainly they're not here now. Certainly they're not available now. But Prabhupada writes in this purport that such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. Now, so many people, they take upon the garb of mendicants, and then they pretend to be followers of Srila Prabhupada. One does not be a follower of Prabhupada just by saying that they're followers of Srila Prabhupada. One becomes a follower of Prabhupada by actually following him. It's very easy to understand. It's not something hard to understand. It's very easy to understand. And we see this. We actually see this point. We actually see so many, we actually see so many people, they claim to follow Prabhupada, but then, they do everything completely averse to what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So how is it they're considered to be bona fide? How are all these things going on? Because the point is lost. Because the renunciates are so important, but if they're bought out by money, then what happens? What happens? The renunciates, what happens to the renounced order of life? Then their brahmanatva is taken away from them. Then their ability to preach reality from illusion is taken away. It's taken away from them. Why is it taken away from them? It's taken away from them because they are completely bought out by the almighty buck. Instead of being surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, instead of being surrendered to Krishna, instead of being surrendered to all the things that the acharyas have taught us, we start to water down the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And we keep watering it down, Then it comes down to such an extent that we don't even realize what is real Krishna consciousness and what isn't. That book distributors are called Kali Chelas. That people like, we were reading about, we're reading about here how the householders, those people who are too attached to women, Yoshitam Sangi Sangam, they actually look at those who are actually doing the real mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those who are actually going out and giving their life to the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. They look at them as actually the scum of the earth. We actually had this experience where a Grihastha couple had called us up, and they were using the worst kind of profanity that they could possibly use, and they were criticizing our book distribution. They were saying all these things, using the worst kind of profanity. Why? Why were they doing this? Why? Because they're too attached to sense gratification. The very existence of something like this irks people who are too attached to sense gratification, who are too attached to sex life, or too attached to enjoying the sensual pleasures of this world in the name of Krishna consciousness. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would often say, it is better to actually live the life of an honest street sweeper than someone who takes on the garb of a mendicant. It's better. It's better to do things like this. Why? Because at least we're living honestly. At least we're not insulting the highest order of the highest renounced order of life. At least. So we understand these points. We should understand. We should take these things very, very seriously. That if one is in the renounced order of life, one should be contributing something substantial to society and not depend on the earnings of the householders. That we don't care if some people donate, some people don't donate. When people give us a donation, it is to their benefit. It is good for them. So many times when people give us a donation, we let them know, especially when they give us big, we let them know that, you see, you are not doing us a favor, we are doing you a favor by taking your hard-earned wealth. Why? Because you're being too attached to your fruits of your activity, you are absolutely miserable. We tell them this in a nice way or a not so nice way, but we say this point. Why? Because if we don't say it, who will say it? Who will say it? Right? We're supposed to be followers of Srila Prabhupada. We're supposed to be reading Prabhupada's books. We're supposed to be distributing Prabhupada's books. We're supposed to be living by Srila Prabhupada's books. Right? So if we don't repeat what's in Prabhupada's books, what is the use of everything else? What is the use of everything else? If we don't preach properly, if we don't say the things that need to be said, then who will say it? Why did we get this huge temple? Why do we have this pulpit? Why do we have all these things? Yes, to increase book distribution, that's for sure. But another reason is so we can have a Vani Hata. Many people ask Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, oh, you're building so many temples in India, but there are already so many temples in India. Why don't you just use them? He said, no. The reason we build these temples is so we can have Vani Hatas. We can have a place from which we can broadcast a message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the benefit of human society. That we can go and tell people the things that need to be told. We can go and tell people all the things that are good for them and all the things that are bad for them without any restriction. This may fry some people out. People may get very, very upset that, oh, why are you talking like this? Why are you doing like this? But no, that's what Prabhupada is speaking about. We're not here to please Janata. We're not here to please the common audience. We're here to please Janardana. We're here to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So when we understand this point, then we can actually go give something of substantial, go give something substantial to society. On the contrary, the acceptance of alms from householders by a bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for the tangible benefit of the donor. You see, that's the point, that we are collecting people's Lakshmi, and what do we do with it? We give them Srila Prabhupada's books. So many people are here. So many people in America, now the holiday season is coming up. What do they want to do? They want to simply go and blow their money on all kinds of useless things. They actually want to go and they want to buy this nonsense and that nonsense and that nonsense and this nonsense. Squander. Prabhupada uses its word. People like to squander their hard-earned wealth on this useless sense gratification. They like to squander it on all these useless things. If we were to go and tell them, my dear sir, you're wasting your human form of life. Can you please surrender to Lord Chaitanya? Then they may think, oh, this guy is, what's wrong with him? I have $10 in my pocket. I wanted to use it to buy a beer. And now you're being so unreasonable. You're asking me for my $10 for these books. You're being unreasonable. I want to go and drink my beer. But we tell them, no, we have something much better for you to drink. Something much better. That this is the greatest intoxicant that you can actually drink. Rupa Goswami says, Parivadatu jano yata tatavan anumukarona vayam na vicharayamaha harirasa madira madati matta bhuvi viluttama natama nirvishamaha. That, who cares what the ordinary people of this world think? Who cares what people who have no conception of proper Krishna consciousness think? Let the garrulous populace say whatever they want. As far as we are concerned, we are going to get drunk. Hari rasa madira madati matta bhuvi viluttamana tamana nirvishamaha. That Hari rasa madira, let's get drunk in this nectar of Sankirtan. Let's get drunk in this Sankirtan rasa. Let's get drunk with it. Just by drinking this Hari rasa madira, we can go absolutely crazy. We can roll on the floor in ecstasy. Who cares what these people think? We are always so concerned, what will this person think, what will that person think, what will this person think, what will that person think. All we have to think about is what will the Guru Parampara think if I get too mental on the streets and not go and distribute these books to people. How do we distribute Bhagavatams on the street? What do we tell them? Most of the time, especially in Miami, the way we distributed Bhagavatams is we straight up told them, see, you're living like a hog and a dog. Your life is no better than a worm in stool. You need to understand how rare this human form of life is. We tell them, Labdva Shadurlabham Idam Bhavasam Bhavante Manashamartada Manityam Apiha Dira Tunam Yatedana Patet Anamrityu Yava Nishaya Saya Vishaya Kalu Sarvatasyat. I quoted this verse so many times to people who bought Bhagavatams from me. I told them, Westerners, I told them this, that human form of life is so rare. You attain this human form of life after many, many births and deaths. How old are you? They say 25, 30, whatever. I tell them, how many 30-year-olds have died? How many 25-year-olds have died? How many 21-year-olds have died? They've all died. You think you will live? Is your life guaranteed? The only thing guaranteed about your life is death. Are you prepared for death? Be real with me. Look at me. Tell me honestly. Are you prepared for death? If you were to die now, would you actually be at peace? They say no. This will give you peace. Take the Srimad Bhagavatam. Take this. Krishna Sadamo Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nasha Dishamesha Purana Arko Dunoditaha. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a literary incarnation of Krishna and has arisen in this dark age of Kali to give light to all the lost people of this age. We tell them this, we show them this purpose. We tell them, what are you doing with your lives? Get your act together. You wasted your life on so many things. You wasted your life on so many things. You're simply doing so many things which are completely contrary to your ultimate benefit. But this Bhagavatam will actually help destroy all the unwanted things in your heart. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshaya shriyante chasya karmani drishya evatmanishvare. That this Srimad Bhagavatam will remove all the knots in our hearts, all the knots of attachments. We were reading just now, Pumsasya mituni bhavametam, taroraho hridaya granti mahuhu, that there is a knot in the heart which is formed when one indulges too much in sex life. Who is teaching this? Who is giving proper education? Only our acharyas are doing this. The great acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, our own acharyas, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, our own Srila Prabhupada, who did it for the welfare of more people than Srila Prabhupada, who came and actually gave the world what they actually need. Srila Prabhupada did. He gave his life for producing these books. Prabhupada said sometimes that I don't even care if my preaching in the West stops. I don't care. But I will always continue translating and writing my books because this is a primary service that I do to my spiritual master. This is the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement. The goal of the Krishna consciousness movement is to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books to every nook and cranny of this world. And by doing so, everything comes about. By performing the Sankirtan Yajna, the Yajna Purush is pleased. Krishna Varna Atusha Krishnam Sango Pangasa Parshadam Yajna Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. That Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has descended again as the golden form, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has descended as his beautiful golden form. And what does he do? What does he do? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually engages everyone in Sankirtan. And those who have some intelligence utilize their entire life and give their life to the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is what our life is meant for. Our spiritual master has done it, is doing it, and will always do it. Therefore, we should also take a vow to always do it. Otherwise, what does it mean to be a disciple? To be a disciple means we carry out the mission of the previous acharyas. We carry out the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by doing so, when we accept people's donations, it is good for them. How do we accept donations? Dante nitayatanakam padayo nipatya kritva chaka kushita eta aham bravimi he sadhava sakala eva vihaya durad gauranga chanda charane kurtanuraga. That we go up to them, we fall at their lotus feet, we tell them, oh my dear sir, you are so great. You are the best thing that's ever walked on this planet. I love your energy, it's got a great synergy. When I see you, I feel like you always had a passion for flash, and before you had it, you close your eyes and imagine. We tell them all these things. We tell them these books are there's a king of knowledge for kings like you. He's broke as hell, but it's for kings like you. You please take these books and read them, and you'll forget all your hogwash and surrender to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By doing this, they actually become a completely, they actually are on the path of becoming a Mahatma. They actually become worshipable by so many people. Why? Because they have surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Simply by doing this, this is the desire of our previous acharyas, our own Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This is an amazing verse glorifying him. Is Vipulikrita Vaibhava Gaura Bhuvam Bhuvanesh Vikirtita Gaura Dayaniya Ganarpita Gaura Padam Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Padam. It's such an amazing verse. It's the 5th verse of the Prabhupada Padmastavaka. He has revealed the vast, magnificent beauty of Sri Gauradham. He has broadcast the tidings of the supreme magnanimity of Sri Gauranga throughout the whole universe. And in the hearts of the fit recipients of His grace, He has firmly established the feet of Sri Gaura. I make my obeisances unto Him. Perpetually do I make my obeisances unto the effulgence emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of my Lord. So this is such an amazing verse. We should understand this. It's so beautiful. Vipulikrita Vaibhava Gaura Bhuvam. That He's broadcasting the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the 3 worlds. He's doing this by this propagation of this literature. This is the most important thing. When 2 great devotees of the Supreme Lord on the highest platform of loving Krishna and seeing Krishna face to face met in Radhakund, what did they talk about? They spoke about book distribution. If you ever get money, print books. This is not an ordinary thing. We should not miss the point. Do not miss the point. This is the desire of the previous acharyas, and now is the time for us to promote it as much as possible. Like our own spiritual master has signed and written over here. I'm just going to read this. He says, I've gone past it already. Oh yeah. He says, may devotees a Krishna life, Alana, continue to distribute thousands of Srila Prabhupada's books for His divine pleasure. Signed, Bhakti Vikas Swami, Canterbury, July 31, 2022. So this is the instruction coming down from the parampara. Parampara jano bhalo mate. So therefore, we should give our life to this book distribution. We should not fall asleep in Bhagavatam class. We should give everything we got and go for it. Go in for the kill. Now is the time to go in for the kill. Distributor Srimad Bhagavatam said, your life will completely change. Go and do it. Tell them, hey, honestly, you're living like an animal. This is the real thing. This is the only thing that's going to save you from gliding down to the worst hellish conditions of life. Show them the beautiful verse of the Bhagavatam. Tell them, help them understand, hey, listen, bottom line, you and I both know, deep down, I actually told a person, deep down, you know that what I'm telling you is absolutely true. Therefore, surrender now and buy the Bhagavatam. And they buy it. Some people buy it, some people don't. But still, those who buy it, they're eternally benefited. And those who don't buy it, at least buy a Saptarishi set. It's still better than distributing just a Bhakta stack. So I'll stop the class here. If there's any questions or comments? I've left 5 minutes. We can take them now. Yes.
Just a comment and a question for Prabhu on this point of squandering one's wealth. I heard this recently. This woman, basically, she was putting all of her life savings away, and she wouldn't spend any money herself. Even her working on everything, she was just putting in savings. And actually, when she left this world, she left kind of all of a sudden. She didn't put her wealth away to a will. And so actually, the government took 30% of her wealth, and then the other 70%, which she was working her whole life, just putting this money away, the other 70% went to her relatives who she had it. She hated them.
Oh God.
Her whole life was pretty much just wasted. She was saving all this money. And that's just like that you're mentioning about this, that people will squander their hard-earned wealth.
Yeah.
I heard that yesterday, so. And my question is, you quoted this verse from the Bhagavatam about serving great devotees. And I still don't understand this exactly, because Prabhupada says, I've heard it many times, but I still don't understand. One has to serve impersonalists and devotees. I was kind of wondering.
Yeah, in that purport, actually, we can look at the purport, but the summary of it is that, like, either way, the people who have renounced this sex life and are actually attracted to transcendence. Like, even the Brahmavadis are actually worshipable to some degree, because they are completely detached from this material world, and they should not be offensive towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They should not be offensive. The Brahmavadis are not offensive to the Supreme Lord, but as the Mayavadis are. So, like, by following, by seeing, by serving people like that, there's certainly some benefit. By serving people, there's certainly some benefit is there. But in the purport itself, Prabhupada, in the verse itself, Prabhupada said they're all engaged in devotional service. If you look at that verse, 552 of the Bhagavatam, in that itself, they are very, okay, look, the Mahatmas are equipoised, they do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They're very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. So bottom line is they're fully engaged in devotional service, you see.
Even in personal.
Yeah, like for example, like the impersonalists, like even the Brahmavadis, they are somehow the other, they get attracted, they know about the supreme feature, the personal feature of the Supreme Lord, they may not know about it, but they feel some kind of attraction towards it, and they are not envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so there is I'm sure we can get into more technical details about it and we can read the verse, but that's what I glean over this. Anything else? Mataji, so you have something? Okay. Mataji's? Anything? Okay, all right then. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's transcendental book distribution ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Snakes and ladders.
Trace? Yes. Shadow on the...
I gotta be here. Pray for me. Yeah, gotcha. All sorts of spots. All sorts of spots. Airport ain't giving me no love no more. I'm coming with you. All right. I get the soda. It's been a long time. Deepesh, thank you for coming. That's how long you take to the balloons? Oh, no. Anthony, thank you for coming. 1 second. Thank you for giving the class. That's like seeing you. Thank you so much. Yeah. I want to change it. That's that.
Yeah, because you're not. You're miserable. You have health issues for yourself? Can you eat anything? No. Not eat a banana. If I give you a banana, you can't eat it. Can you take it? I can't put this in there. Put honey on it, call it honey.
has to give